Happy Monday, Fantasy Alarm Nation. Justin Fensterman, James Grande with you for another edition of the DFS NBA live stream. Grande, we got 7 games to dominate tonight. Are you ready to do this?
Always, brother, always, and I'm happy it's with you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for bringing that spirited energy as well. I really do appreciate that. So let's start with the point guard spot and talk about Russell Westbrook versus the Knicks. Russell Westbrook, I mean, if you remember from the last game, he actually was out for that one. Now he's 10-7 on FanDuel, 10,000 on DraftKings. So is this a must-pay up for, or do we go after a guy like Trae Young versus Memphis? We love attacking Memphis guards.
So I think there's 3 options, and John does have Luka Doncic written up top, and it was only primarily due to the fact that he was questionable, and then he did upgrade him to probable, and now there's no Kristaps Porzingis. So I think it's a really difficult conundrum, Fancy. I think, on one hand, we look at Westbrook where he's not garnering much love in terms of ownership. And I love that because Russell Westbrook is playing better than almost every single player in the NBA right now. I would say there are honestly on one hand, I can count how many players are playing better than Russell Westbrook right now. And it's primarily because he's not settling for threes. He hasn't taken more than 4 in a game in 10 straight, and he's just attacking, and he's honestly unstoppable when that's the case. So it's very hard for me to fade Russell Westbrook. It's very hard to fade Trae Young, who gets Memphis and is still under 10K on FanDuel. That's silly because the pace of this game is going to be tremendous. It's a track meet, and Trae is a double-double machine right now, averaging 56 fantasy points over his last 6 games. But then there's Luka, no Kristaps Porzingis, going up against a really, really depleted Bulls team. I know they're getting a lot of guys back. I know Wendell Carter's back. I know Otto Porter Jr. is back, but these guys are limited. There's no Zach LaVine tonight. I don't know if the Bulls can stay competitive if Luka goes off tonight. I mean, they're just so bad. Like
they can barely field a team, Grande.
They can barely field a team.
He's hurt. Everybody's hurt. Kobe White, he's going to play, but he's also hurt. You know he's not 100%, and he's forcing himself in tonight.
Yeah, and that's the sad part because Luka's, has a chance for 70, which he did against this team already. So I would honestly, I know John is Trae Young first. I'm pretty sure he's pretty much settled on Trae Young being his first option. I'm actually going to go Russell Westbrook slightly, very slightly ahead of Trae Young. I just think it's more contrarian. I mean, the ownership speaks to that. So I'm going to go Westbrook a little bit over the other guys, but I mean, they're all super elite.
Yes, and I like what you said about Westbrook. I mean, that's the clear thing we've seen this year is that Harden will stay out at the arc and shoot 3 after 3 after 3. Westbrook's a better driver. That's his game. So with that, he's going to have to do that against the Knicks tonight. We'll see how interesting it is. Alfred Payton going up against him, who's helped transform the Knicks. I don't want to say into any kind of powerhouse, but much better defensively on the perimeter. He and RJ Barrett have done a much better job. But Russell Westbrook's Russell Westbrook, and I'm not going to fear, like you said, I'm not going to fade Westbrook because of that at all. This is a good spot for him. One of him or Harden is going to produce, or even both. It's the Knicks. Let's move on, though, to middle-tier pricing, and someone that was in my DFS NBA starting 5 video tonight is Malcolm Brogdon. For that reason, because Malcolm Brogdon gets the Spurs, you can attack the San Antonio backcourt, but also Grande, and you can tell me if you disagree with this. I happen to think we're going to be seeing Brogdon drive a bit more than usual tonight because of the Spurs injuries up front.
Yeah, I mean, there's a clear-cut hole in the San Antonio defense, and it's in the interior. I mean, they're going to start a 6'8" Drew Eubanks potentially, or a 6'8" Trey Lyles, or, a 6'8" Rudy Gay, maybe 6'8" Rudy Gay. So, this is all lines up very well for a big Malcolm Brogdon, 6'5", 6'4", 6'5" at a point guard position. Now there's no Victor Oladipo. I mean, this just lines up very well for Malcolm Brogdon and his price. I mean, we were attacking all season long ad nauseum Malcolm Brogdon under 7K without Victor Oladipo, and that was the thing. That was, if you saw Brogdon under 7K without Oladipo, it's a lock and load. That's what we have in our back pocket tonight, Fancy. And if he goes overlooked, you're making a big mistake.
Grande, I liked Malcolm Brogdon with Oladipo in the game.
Same.
That's how much, because, and here's why. And this is no scientific reason. There's no usage rate. This is from watching this team, Grande, because I love watching these games and getting exposure to all teams. Here's the thing. With Victor Oladipo in there and all that San Antonio is going to have to contend with what Indiana has in terms of pieces, I was expecting DeMar DeRozan to be more on Oladipo and watching him because he's played better lately. So I thought Brogdon would get less defensive attention from DeMar DeRozan, and that's why I like Brogdon before Oladipo was ruled out.
Yeah, and I think you have a good point, and they've been producing together. I mean, we've seen Oladipo put together 2 back-to-back very nice games, and Brogdon has been very productive in those games as well. So there is correlation between them, and there's obvious correlation without him. 26% usage rate for Brogdon, over a fantasy point per minute with Oladipo off the floor. So I think it's a clear-cut cash play, tournament play, whichever format you want to use him in. I think he's perfectly fine in all of them.
We continue going over the point guards in the DFS NBA playbook here on fantasyalarm.com. Alfred Payton. Now, with Houston, we know how bad their defense is. But, James, with Alfred Payton, you're not always going to get the points from him. But the assists, the steals, the long rebounding, that can help him carry weight a little bit. And going up against the poor defensive guards that Houston has, the price point doesn't look as, I want to say I was afraid of the price point, but now really thinking of it a little bit more, if there's anybody else that you can rely on for production on this Knicks team besides Julius Randle, it's Alfred Payton.
Yeah, I mean, it's just tournament play because he's volatile. And, if his scoring doesn't tag along with his peripheral stats, then he's going to bury your lineup. And he's done it. You just
need 10 points from him.
You just need 10 points. Right.
That's it.
Agreed. I agree. But we've seen plenty of situations where that's not always the case, Fancy. So we need those. And I think that he is going to be asked the remainder of the year to carry a bigger burden because, they got rid of their leading scorer in Marcus Morris, and Mitchell Robinson is playing a lot of minutes as in a scorer. So they have a lot of pieces that Mo Harkless playing extended run, another guy who doesn't exactly score the basketball. So Payton really has to if the Knicks are going to compete. So definitely fine for tournaments. But there are 2 guys below that John has in the playbook that I would rather play in cash games, and Conley and Kobe White.
Conley has been playing better. I can't deny that. The Jazz have been messing with their lineup just a little bit because it hasn't been all dandelions and roses for them as a whole, Grande. But with Conley, they need to keep him separated from Donovan Mitchell. They're both great on their own, but when they're together, it makes me want to pull what's left of my hairline left out. That's what it takes. Because I feel, and I've told you this before, when it comes to Conley, I think he limits Mitchell when they're on the court together. Because he tries to create with the ball, and Mitchell's left at the arc, too much of the shot clock goes down. You keep them both separate, both can be productive.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen plenty of teams stagger their best players. I mean,
Philly should be doing it. I've been telling Adam Ronis this. Would Philly, when they're fully healthy, Philadelphia should be essentially bringing in guys like Josh Richardson and Al Horford in off the bench. They need to balance out their lineup better. I think that's how they get better overall.
So, I mean, yes and no, because I think there are teams that do it the right way. Houston, for example, they will play James Harden the whole first quarter. They'll take Westbrook out halfway, and then Westbrook essentially checks in 2 minutes left at the quarter and then plays throughout the second without Harden. The Celtics do the same thing with Jason Tatum, where they'll sub Jason Tatum out 6 minutes into the game, sub him back out when Gordon Hayward, Kemba Walker come off the floor, and it's Jason Tatum playing with the second unit. I think there are ways to do it better than Utah has, and I agree because Point Donovan Mitchell is the best Donovan Mitchell we get. I mean, when Donovan Mitchell's the one that's handling the ball, that's when he's at his best. So I agree. I think they can coexist in a starting lineup. I just think they have to do it better. I will say the minutes are intriguing for Conley, and the matchup, no one's really been worse at guarding point guards lately than Cleveland. So Conley, honestly, on the flip side, though, for all the hoopla that Mike Conley's gotten about his defense in the last however many years he's been in the NBA, they have been a dreadful defensive team, bottom 5 in the league over the last month in terms of defensive rating. Now there's no Andre Drummond. There's no Darius Garland. I think Colin Sexton, who John has written up top of his playbook, could be an interesting tournament play. Really cheap. We've seen a boatload of points scored in situations. I mean, just the other night he put up 20-plus actual points. I think Colin Sexton at a reduced price tag will go overlooked because people still think and have a misconception of the Jazz defense, and they are not very good.
What about Kevin Porter Jr.?
I mean, Kevin Porter Jr. is a lock and load. He's starting. He's been great in 3 of his last 4 games, 27 or more fantasy points, including a 50-burger just a few games ago. That's a lock and load if I've ever seen one. He's under 5K across the industry as well.
This team could be at full strength, and the Cavs have announced it over and over and over again that Kevin Porter Jr. is going to lead the second unit when it comes to scoring. And they'll continue to do that. And until that price point is out of control, you have to continue taking advantage of it. He's a future piece. They're going to keep giving him more minutes down the stretch. Let's talk about shooting guard. James Harden and CJ McCollum. Now, here's the deal, Grande. James Harden, I mean, against the Knicks, you would think it's lock and load 100%. But being that Damian Lillard is still out and I see CJ McCollum right underneath for $2,000 cheaper on FanDuel and a price down on DraftKings as well, how do you not go McCollum over Harden?
You do. You just do. Like, you just play – you just play McCollum because, we're getting elite production for a price tag that should be where James Harden's price tag should be. Honestly, if the sites were accurately depicting where CJ McCollum's price should be right now without Lillard, it should be where James Harden's is, just based on every game that he's been without Lillard. He averages like 55 fantasy points a game without Lillard. I get it. We're not accustomed and acclimated to seeing 9,388 next to CJ McCollum's name, but he's dominating. And we've touched on it every single time that we've had the Magic on this live stream, and we've touched on it, and John and I have ran with it, and Sean and I, and John and whoever's been on the live stream. This Orlando Magic defense in general is not the same without Jonathan Isaac. Jonathan Isaac is the glue to that defense. They're just not the same. And now you compare that with Aaron Gordon being out, who's their next best perimeter defender. They don't have anyone to stop CJ McCollum tonight. He is going to run rampant. I think he's a core play. Harden's a GPP, contrarian pivot. CJ McCollum is a lock and load, all formats.
We have no other questions necessary on that one. Other options that you could go with: Donovan Mitchell, who I love tonight for obvious reasons. It's Cleveland, and it's Donovan Mitchell. And what, Grande? He's scored over 30 points, 30 or more points, scoring points in his last 4 games. Yep. Sign me up.
Yeah, and it's Cleveland. They're dead last against shooting guards. This game is going to be fun, and I think it's going to go overlooked. And I don't think it should, because it's 2 really bad defensive teams. And
you got to stack the hell out of this game.
Yep.
This is such a stackable game. Nance, Porter, Sexton. We've given you 3 already from Cleveland. Then on the other side, you run it back with a Conley or Mitchell. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, and we haven't even gotten to power forward, and we're already chomping at the bit to talk about Larry Nance, because the price and the opportunity is tremendous. So I think this is a sneaky stack, and Mitchell's definitely part of that.
DeMar DeRozan, for obvious reasons, with LaMarcus Aldridge out, he's by far and away the number 1 option now. The usage is going to go up. And against Indiana, no Oladipo on the other side. And also, by the way, no Jeremy Lamb as well. You're going to see this team have more struggles defensively now that Lamb is gone. Warren can help out somewhat, but he's no Jeremy Lamb on the perimeter. So with that, DeRozan becomes a good play. Love the price point for him. RJ Barrett, John and Pemba has in the playbook against Houston. He's been quietly playing better, Grande.
Yep. And I think it comes with the minutes, too. We saw him very good earlier in the year, and it was playing 34 to 38 minutes a game. And I think
too many minutes.
Right. It is too many minutes, but I'm just saying as the minutes have risen, and just like they were early in the year, the production came with it. And I think it's also due to the fact that he knows that he's playing alongside guys that just don't score the basketball.
Right.
Let's face it, Alfred Payton, for someone we talked about that needs to score, isn't a number 2 option on any basketball team scoring. Mo Harkless, good rebounder, good peripheral guy, not a scorer at all. He's a stand in the corner guy. Mitchell Robinson now playing 20 minutes, no offensive threat at all. So you literally have Julius Randle, and then there's RJ Barrett. He's the number 2 scoring option. I like him. I like the call in tournaments. I think it's interesting. The only thing is, Fancy, I think shooting guard is cut and dry tonight. You play, especially on FanDuel, you play McCollum, and you pair him with Mitchell, you pair him with DeRozan, or in tournaments, now that you know Aaron Gordon's out, you drop down, you play Evan Fournier, who is not mentioned, 6,100, who has a big usage rate, or you play the sauce, Terrence Ross.
The sauce. That's what
who is on fire, Fensty, on fire right now. And you know what? I will do this. I know it's one thing that I live and die by. Streaky shooters are streaky shooters, and when streaky shooters are going, you play them, and they might crash and burn, but he is rolling right now. And when Terrence Ross is rolling under 5K, very hard to ignore in tournaments. And look at that ownership. Let's just look at it. No Aaron Gordon, and he's still going to be under 5%. I mean, come on.
You're fine with the 5,400 on DraftKings?
Yeah, because you also got to remember, DraftKings, you get the 3-point bonus. And if Terrence Ross hits you 6 3-pointers tonight, I mean, that's an extra 3 points in our pocket that we didn't get over on FanDuel. So I don't hate it. I like the 4,900 a little more, but I do like the fact that if he hits 6, 7, 8 threes, which isn't out of the realm of possibility, considering he's going to play all the minutes tonight, I like him on DraftKings as well.
Just going to say this because I brought it up on the Fantasy Alarm Show on SiriusXM, James. There was a prop on DraftKings Sportsbook, Evan Fournier, over under 2.5 3-pointers. I'm taking the over on that, especially now.
Definitely taking the over because I think it's something that we've seen a dominant version of Aaron Gordon lately, even offensively.
That before Gordon was out.
Before Gordon, right. I agree. And that's not me just, hopping on the Fournier train just because Gordon's out. But it definitely helps that Gordon's out. I mean, Portland is, let's face it, they are a bottom 3 defense in the league right now. And
they are garbage, Grande.
They're a bottom 3 probably team without Damian Lillard. Not team because, they have good pieces, but defensively they're dreadful. Get all the Magic exposure tonight, please.
Let's move on to small forward and talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo going up against the Heat. Very high price point for him, Grande. But looking at small forward and some of the other options that John Impemba has, there's not too many options there unless you think otherwise.
No, it is a. I don't want to
not
the show, Fensty, but it's a shithole. I mean, look, I know Giannis doesn't have a lot of skill, right? And we're talking about a guy who doesn't have a lot of skill in the basketball court. He's 7 feet tall, and all he could do is dunk. But that 7-foot guy who all he could do is dunk is coming off a 40 and 20 game. I'm all kidding. All jokes aside, I love using guys from Milwaukee, especially Giannis, when there is a competitive atmosphere, because we don't get that often. We don't get Giannis in 37-minute bunches very often. And even though Chris Middleton's going to play, I mean, look, nobody on the Heat can stop him. Nobody in the NBA can stop Giannis if he's going like he does pretty much on a nightly basis. So I think this is a really nice place to attack. More on FanDuel because the position is very scarce. It's very ugly. I mean, TJ Warren is the next highest priced guy at 5,900. Like, think about that. We have a tremendous drop off. So on FanDuel, I think it's more of a necessity. On DraftKings, we can obviously play guys like DeRozan. We can play all these multi-position guys.
Right.
So I think Giannis elite on FanDuel, less of a necessity on DraftKings. But like, if you're sitting here and telling me Giannis is your top play, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong, because in a competitive atmosphere, he can go for 80 fantasy points on literally any given night.
Right. I don't mind, especially with Oladipo out now, TJ Warren and DeAndre.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, especially with Oladipo out, TJ Warren's value goes up tremendously. DeAndre Hunter as well. We have to check on this, Grande, on Cam Reddish. I know he was questionable, and that, I'm not saying that's a make or break for DeAndre Hunter, but I like it so much better if Reddish is out of the game.
I believe he has been downgraded to doubtful.
Okay.
So we are. So I'm indifferent about that, because they've actually been doing the starting lineup where they've been starting Reddish at the 3 and Hunter at the 4. And I like that in this particular matchup because Memphis is also running a small lineup with DeAnthony Melton at the 2, and they're starting Kyle Anderson at the 4. I mean, they call him slow-mo for a reason, right? Like, they call him slow-mo.
Sad, Grande.
They call him. It is so sad. And this is a playoff team. Just want to point that out there.
Not for long, Grande.
Not for long.
Now, Grande.
Zion's coming. Let's be real. Zion's coming. Yes, there may be a couple more shots, rebound opportunities, but I also think the rebounding could maybe take a step back, something that John and I were talking about on the podcast last night. I mean, Bruno Fernando could slide into the starting lineup, and that would shift Hunter back to the 3, would move Collins to the 4. Then there's 2 natural bigs. Does that hurt Hunter, who's gone for 10-plus rebounds in 2 of his last 3? I don't know. I think it would, because Bruno Fernando is a pretty good rebounder, has proven it to be the case when he's on the floor. So I prefer Reddish to actually be there because I think it opens up things more for Hunter. I think there's also elite value at the position where, Porter is a small forward across the board. I mean, we already talked about him. That's a lock and load. He's starting lock and load. Rudy Gay is going to be a very, very, very popular option tonight considering what he did last time. Now, I want to warn everyone.
You can't always rely on him, Grande.
You can't. And Fensty, the San Antonio Spurs are on the front leg of a back-to-back tonight. So we're going to get popped. Pop is going to play Rudy Gay 18 minutes. He's going to play Trey Lyles 15 minutes. And Drew Eubanks is going to play 35 because that's what Popovich does. He's done it forever. We can't trust the guy. So Rudy Gay is going to be very chalky. He's very appealing in terms of price. His last game, he was great. No denying all these. The Spurs are in a playoff position where they're only 3 games back. I get all this. I just also want to, look on the other side of the fence and just tell you we've seen this a million times with Greg Popovich-led teams. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. If it's a back-to-back, Rudy Gay is old. He's on the old side in terms of NBA longevity. He literally could be looking at 17 minutes. And then would we rather have DeAndre Hunter, or would we rather have Kevin Porter or Dorian Finney-Smith?
But I would rather have them anyway. Not Dorian Finney-Smith. He's on the same line as Rudy Gay. You know what? I would rather have Dorian Finney-Smith because at least I know I'm getting 30 minutes out of him.
30 minutes. That's my point right there. We know we're going to get 30 minutes, and without Porzingis, there's a boost in pretty much everything in terms of from rebounds to even shot attempts going around.
By the way, I'm just going to say this too, since we're talking about Dallas. Tim Hardaway Jr. at small forward,
yep.
You have to lock and load him at this point.
I agree because,
there are hardly any options. Look who we're talking about.
Dorian Finney-Smith, we're going to talk about Maxi Kleber. We're going to talk, I agree. So,
vomit. Dead.
Yeah.
We gave you Kevin Porter Jr. already for obvious reasons, so let's just move on to power forward. And you look at what they have now. John Collins against Memphis. Grande, you mentioned it with him that, when it comes to either side, they're both really lacking options up front. So there's nothing. I even like the price point. It's sub 9K. I think that's all we really have to say about that. But what about Domantas Sabonis, though? Spurs missing about 66% of their front court. So, do you like Sabonis tonight?
I am team. I have price points in my mind when I think of Domantas Sabonis, and anytime, and it's something that John and I used to talk about a bunch of guys. Anytime X player would reach a price point, it makes me uncomfortable, and almost 9K for Domantas Sabonis makes me uncomfortable. And it's not to say that he can't get there, because he can. He has been rock solid all year. 45 turns out 45 to 50 fantasy points every single night, right? But how many times has Domantas Sabonis taken those 45 to 50 and gone 60 to 65? That's the difference when you're paying for John Collins versus Sabonis. We just saw Collins twice go for 60 plus, and now he's getting a really good pace up spot against a bad Memphis front court. I'm not saying that he's going up against any world beaters, because he's going up against trash in the front court, Sabonis is. But it's just whether or not it's trash or whether or not it's good, it's just 45 to 55. And
right.
And that's great in cash games. And for tournaments, it just doesn't do it for me. So in cash, perfectly fine. I'm not going to do that in tournaments. but I get it because there's no Oladipo. So I guess like I could be swayed. But anytime Sabonis is approaching 9K, it makes me a little uncomfortable.
Yep. You want to know something that's going to make you comfortable, though, Grande? Let me make you comfortable. Julius Randle, sub 8K price point. How don't you go with this guy against the small front court Rockets? How don't you go with this guy? This price point is so insulting. It's that good.
Yeah, and you mentioned like the Rockets front court is very weird. It's very weird because they're going to force you to play small, or they're going to force you to just say, screw it, I'm going to play big and I'm going to exploit you. Randall kind of fits both those molds because, like, as much as his bully ball nature, he's athletic, so he can guard a PJ Tucker who's just going to stand in the corner anyway, or he can guard a Robert Covington on the perimeter. But he's going to dominate both of those guys on the interior. I wouldn't be surprised if he put both of them in foul trouble quite early, to be honest. And we saw a lot of Jeff Green, who also could be put in foul trouble. So, I mean, he's just the number one option, sub 8K. I wish there were more other stats. And I think Alfred Payton's hogging all of the assists. And I think
I'll tell you this, Grande. He's hogging some of the assists. But if you look at what Randall's done, he's been having those 3 assist games, man. Everything adds up. I always look for big men to be dishing 3 assists, and it shows that they have an awareness to them. He's been helping out. He's not getting you the triple-double range or anything like that, but a few assists a game lately, I like that.
Okay, I'll give you that, but I'll ask for a block or a steal per game. I want that because we're really not getting that. I mean, he's averaging 0.3 blocks per game and 0.8 steals. And I mean, let's face it, you're a big man. Like you got to give us a little more. But I do agree. Like, I think the matchup could be dominant. I'm just asking a lot of Julius Randle because we saw it when he was number 1 in New Orleans after the Anthony Davis days, or after anytime Davis was hurt. I mean, we were getting a massively productive guy, and I'm talking he was giving us 5-6 assists per game and double every night. I don't know. I think there's more in the tank for Julius Randle.
I mean, he is the Knicks' number 1 option, and again, sub 8K price point. Sign me up all day. The price point alone is just too appealing. It's like I said, it's almost insulting. They played a week ago. He got a double-double against them. Double-doubles in 3 of his last 4 games. Come on, you can't make this guy AK? Okay, we will take it. By the way, Cam Reddish is actually out for the game. So now, Grande, with Reddish being ruled out, how do you feel about Hunter?
I'm trying to find if we can get a Hawks starting lineup because I'm indifferent.
I still feel okay with him. I'm okay with him. This position is crap tonight. I still feel all right with him.
Especially on FanDuel, where he's still under 5K. He's 5K on DraftKings. I think you just play Kevin Porter for $100 cheaper, or there's a couple other options I'd rather play. But he's been really good. He's been sneaky good, and I don't think a lot of people have really come to terms with him being good because of how inconsistent he was earlier in the year.
Right. And this is a top 5 pick.
Right. And he is playing like one right now alongside of 2 really good basketball players. So he's fine. And again, I think you bring up a good point. Position scarcity really comes into play.
For Grande? Jabari Parker being off the team.
Very true.
Before he got hurt, it was more of Jabari Parker we started to see. And then he hurt his shoulder. And then he got dealt.
Very true. It's true because Jabari Parker is a ball hog.
Yes. He is.
No other way to describe it.
Jabari Parker contributes to the downfall of basketball. Let's just say it right now. The guy admits he plays no defense, but we digress. Let's talk about power forwards a little bit more here. We just talked about Randle, and with Randle on the other side, Robert Covington. Do you like Covington ceiling enough, Grande, in this game? Because I'll be honest with you, I wasn't that impressed with him last time out against the Knicks, but the blocks have been tremendous lately.
Yeah, the block upside has been weird. I mean, we know he's a good defender, but he's taking it to the next level playing kind of in the post. So, I mean, if that's the type of upside we're going to get on FanDuel especially, I mean, we get the extra point bonus over there, I'm fine with him. And the price tag is only $6,200. So I think it's more of a FanDuel play. because we're getting the rebounds, we're getting the blocks, and we know if the 3 ball's falling, we're in for a treat. So I think that he's fine. But ultimately, Fency, I mean, we have 2 guys in Cleveland, and we have a guy in San Antonio that's going to be the chalk. I mean, Nance is under 5K on FanDuel, and Trey Lyles is under 5K across the industry coming off the game of his life, and he played 38 minutes. Kevin Love is $6,400 without Andre Drummond and Tristan Thompson. This is a guy we were paying $8,000 for without Andre Drummond and Tristan Thompson. And Utah's bad.
They're bad.
On the road. They're on the road.
Yeah, they're bad. And by the way, don't let Rudy Gobert fool you. Oh, he's going up against Gobert. That should make you want to play these guys more.
That's why I'm going to be lower than the field on Covington, because I'm going to play the Kevin Loves for $200 more. I'm going to play the Larry Nance's.
100%. I agree.
$1,300 for savings when we go from Covington to Nance.
Oh, that's too easy. You got a lot of value in Cleveland. And people say Cleveland sucks. Come on, they're total value tonight. You got to love it. Also, more news with Zach LaVine out. Denzel Valentine, Grande, enters the starting lineup. Now, we've seen him do it before. And also, I don't think his defense is terrible either when he gets the minutes. Where do you stand on Valentine? Cupid hitting you with that?
I mean, look, ultimately, they're still not starting Kobe White. And White and Satoransky are going to play a lot together. They're also starting Shaq Harrison at the 3, Otto Porter coming off the bench. I ultimately think that White and Satoransky play 30-plus minutes together, and Valentine loses out on a lot of that time. But we could also see a scenario where Valentine's playing some 3 tonight, and we see 20 minutes, and he's min salary across the industry. He's stone cold minimum, $3,000. And if you play the blowout game, because, that is a factor in DFS, you can play the blowout game. I mean, you can. And if you don't think the Bulls can stay competitive, I mean, Valentine's going to be on the floor. Let's just face it. Why wouldn't they play Denzel Valentine in a blowout? So I think there's a path to him for 6-7x at $3,000, and that's like 20 fantasy points. I don't think that's a really crazy, preposterous idea.
Let's review the Bulls once again. Wendell Carter Jr. is going to be restricted. Otto Porter is going to be restricted. Kobe White is not 100%. Tomas Satoransky also not 100%. Anything's possible with this team when it comes to safe floors tonight.
Yeah, and they're starting offensive, they have no offensive in their starting lineup. I mean, we can look at how great Thad Young's been playing of late. Not really an offensive-minded guy. He's a
shell of himself, Grande.
Shell of himself.
Total
shell of himself. Satoransky, very good passer, good shooter, not really the scoring type of guy. Wendell Carter is going to shoot in there, but he's only going to be in there for X amount of time. Otto Porter Jr., not really offensive-minded. They literally have Kobe White to shoot the basketball tonight. That is it. So Denzel Valentine is going to take a lot of shots when he's on the floor, because he does. He chucks. He's a chucker. So I think there's a path to Denzel Valentine being pretty decent tonight. 20 minutes is the cap, but I wouldn't necessarily just write him off because only 20 minutes.
Right. More injury news coming in as we're getting closer to lock. Seth Curry has actually been ruled out. Just makes me like Tim Hardaway Jr. a whole lot more in that crappy small forward spot, especially on DraftKings Grande.
Yeah, I mean, Tim Hardaway, I'm going to honestly give DeLon Wright a slight bump too. Not that DeLon Wright has been the offensive player that we had hoped when he originally came over to Dallas. Right. But he does a lot of really good things on the basketball court. He's a very good rebounding guard. He's a very good passer. And, maybe the assists take a step back because Luka is on the floor. But Luka obviously can set him up more for scoring possibilities. And he's a very good defender, over a steal per game. At least he's good in the passing lane. So I think DeLon Wright at sub 5K could be quite interesting against a turnover-happy Bulls team, Bulls G League squad.
Wow, that's some disrespect. Let's just
That's my own team. I can do that.
Let's just move on to centers before you get the organization pissed off at you, Grande.
Garpax can get as pissed off as they want. They should be gone.
Okay, let's pump the brakes, Grande. Let's just pump the brakes for a second.
Sorry.
We got to talk about center here.
I'm sorry.
Right? It's okay. Calm down, man. Man, I got to get you some milk and cookies or something. Hassan Whiteside, high-priced center option tonight against Orlando. You could go that direction, or you could go with my guy tonight, who I'm starting in just about every lineup, Grande. Jonas freaking Valanciunas. He's got to play 30 minutes tonight, Grande, against Atlanta. Come on. This should be a very simple matchup for him. 20-plus rebounds, 20 or more rebounds in his last 2 games. What else is there to sell him on?
Yeah, I mean, I think Whiteside's a little too pricey for me tonight. I'm probably not going to go there. I think the 2 guys for me up top are Valanciunas and Nikola Vucevic, who is now playing without Aaron Gordon. And Vucevic has over a 30% usage rate. He averages 1.3 fantasy points per minute without Aaron Gordon. I think there's a clear path. And for the shot blocker that Hassan Whiteside is, because he is not a good defender. Portland is not a good defensive team. And Vucevic is really cheap across the industry, 81 on FanDuel, 84 on DK. But like you said, Valanciunas, same boat. $6,800 on DK is criminally priced, especially over the last 2 games, especially considering we're seeing the minutes from Memphis rise. And I think that also correlates with the fact that they are in that 8th and final playoff spot. And they know that there's teams hot on their ass for that spot. And they need these guys to play 30-plus minutes. Let's just face it. They need their starters because they don't have the depth to play these minutes. And Valanciunas has been great. There's 20-20 upside here against Atlanta. There just is. There's 20 rebound upside against the Atlanta front court.
Wow, could he make it a turkey 3 in a row? We'll have to see. Grande thinks it's possible. I'm starting him in all my lineups for that, for a lot of those reasons. It's just say it's a good play tonight, more than a good play, a great play. Any other guys you like for value, Grande? I feel like it's, like you were saying, it was cut and dry some of the other positions. I feel like with Vucevic and Valanciunas, I don't want to go in any other directions. But for those that want to think differently, especially taking ownership into account, what other directions would you go in?
I think Mitchell Robinson, that John has written up, I think he's a great contrarian play. The Knicks seemingly are giving him more minutes, and he's actually been very good, even offensively. And I know a lot of them are putbacks and dunks and yada, yada, yada. He doesn't have a game offensively. But, I mean, he has a very diminutive front court he's going up against. I think those lobs come into play here because he's going to catch all of them over PJ Tucker, who's 6'4". So I think Mitchell Robinson is a very nice contrarian tournament play. I also love Myles Turner, and I think Myles Turner is being overlooked by a lot of people. And it's not just the blocks, because we know Myles Turner is very good defensively in terms of blocking shots. I mean, he has 8-4-2 his last 3 games. 10-plus rebounds in 3 straight games, Fency, and he's not known for his rebounding. And the scoring is
Grande. He's a UFO.
He is a
really
UFO.
Figure out where to put him, but when he's hot, you got to go after him.
Yeah, and the scoring is coming along as well. So I think Myles Turner, who's too cheap on DraftKings at 52, against the we've talked about the Spurs front court all live stream. They're too small. And
it makes you think, Grande, that the Pacers can win by 3 or more points tonight, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't know who wouldn't think that. I think those people are pretty crazy, honestly.
Yeah, seriously. Just saying.
I'm just saying too.
There you have it, the DFS NBA live stream. Love hanging with my boy Jimmy Gran at _real_Grande_domination. That's what he does. I'm Justin Fensterman at Fensty Sports. 7-game slate, 7 million chances to win. And make sure you check out the ridiculousness on Alarm After Hours on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. Yours truly, Howard Bender, the Rotobuzz guy, midnight to 2 a.m. Eastern. We'll keep you up all night. Grande, let's dominate tonight, all right?
Yes, sir.
Let's win.